Hello, everybody. Welcome to the post-production panel. I'm Kimberly Woods. I'm an actor and producer, and I worked on this film called Matrix and the Elven Figurine that was in the Fantasy Block here on Thursday. And I'm excited to be moderating today, and I'm going to have my guests go down the line and tell us who you are and what project you worked on and what you did on the project.
Yes, so my name is Kevin Rolls. I was the editor and the visual effects artist for She Fell from Space, which screened a little while ago in the short film Sci-Fi Block. And I work in post-production, I work in reality TV, and then I also do independent features and short films.
Hello, I'm Andrew Jordan. I worked with Kimberly on Matrix and the Elven Figurine, and I directed that project and edited it. As far as other things that I do, I also do a lot of freelance editing. I edit documentaries, other short films, other things, and occasionally get roped into doing VFX. That's not my main lane, but I do sometimes fill in that when that is needed. So those are things I do.
Similar to Andrew, I'm Michael Wellenreiter. So I'm a director and also do the editing and sound on our films. I work with Ashley Blackwell, who's in the back here as producer and production designer. Our film this year was a feature sci-fi thriller called Sisters of the Shattered Moon.
I'm Leo Torres. I directed The Sanctity, which played in the horror block on Friday, and then The Dreamer, which was in the Supernatural block today at 11. You know, like Molly had mentioned, who was a cinematographer on our piece, we're reluctantly also do the post work.
So there's the saying, you know, fix it in post.
Yes.
What are your guys' worst fix it in post stories? Like, what's been the hardest thing that you've had to try to fix in post?
Story. I have a horror that's making the rounds right now, but it wasn't necessarily that it was bad, but it was just the director just said, you know, like she had two other editors, they just couldn't make it work, and so I took it and I just said, you know, I'm gonna rearrange all the scenes because if they're trying to do it in order, it doesn't make sense. But if we rearrange this, turn this into a dream sequence instead of making it like a scene, then I think this is all gonna like flow together better. And then once I kind of showed that to her, she was like really surprised, like, yeah, that actually worked. And I'm like, that's what my job is.
I'll share this example because it's fresh in my mind because it's on a project I'm editing right now, a different short film. There was a shot on, this was a short film that I actually got to edit largely on set. Sometimes I get brought on set and I can kind of be cutting the film as it's happening and show them, you know, how it's coming. But there's still a lag in terms of when things happen. And at a certain point, we realized after we were done with a scene and after it was over that there was an entire shot that they just did not do. And it was a very important, after somebody's argument, they sort of have to have this emotional beat, retreat back to the couch, sit down on the couch, and then that is meant to be a match cut to another time, where the person has different facial hair and everything like this. So we realized we did not have the cut to make the match cut. So in post, I had to scour all of the different takes, find a spot where we didn't mean to be rolling, but he happened to be getting up from his kneeling position, use a different portion of a different take of another part of the shot where he's on the couch, and mask out the person he's talking to where he has kind of a mournful expression on his face. And it's just completely sculpt this moment out of pieces that we just didn't have and use the other footage that was available. And we kind of got something. It's still not ideal, but those are the kinds of things sometimes you're faced with is, you know, physical production is physical production. You get what happens. Sometimes things on the day happen and go wrong, and then you do what you can.
Absolutely. I think similar to that, it's like when a location burns down, like in the middle of your production. or like one time I was filming on a set of railroad tracks, and this is back in 16mm film days where it costs so much money to film. And like you'd show up like the next weekend at the same location, but the city has like torn the railroad tracks up, like with all the like icon buildings in the background, it's no longer feasible. So like a couple times, or husband and wife get a divorce and like you can't go back to the house because now it's on the market. So like similar to Andrew's saying, it's like that's the point where you're looking at your existing footage, you're trying to pull stills from it, like where was it where no actor was in the frame or no like clapboard, and then trying to cut that out and redesign the wall and then try to refilm the actors to match the lighting and all of that. So everyone's been in those situations, like your resources run out, something goes really awry, and then you're trying to reconstruct things that have a basic continuity as close as you can get.
I was an editor on a web series where they shot an episode, all exteriors in a park in Chicago, and it was over 8 hours. So dealing with this difference in the sun, right? And more importantly, though, they shot next to a park, which was not very smart because at the start of the shoot there was no kids. By the halfway through the shoot, there was a bunch of kids, right? And now the audio does not match at all, and then they also didn't use like a windsock. So it was essentially you have to then cut around your good audio, right? So now your edit is kind of dictated by that, and essentially what I ended up having to do was subtraction by addition. So I had to add the kid noises throughout the entire thing and add like train sounds, and then after I did all that addition, then try to kind of use the noise removals and stuff like that in order to bring it down. So it was a very it was a fun time to say the least, but but I was able to salvage the episode, which is good because it's better than reshooting.
What advice would you give to, like, I know some of you also direct and edit your own projects, but to a director as an editor to make your job easier? You could be like, yeah, or even VFX, like if you could have done this on the set, this would have really helped me. Like this kind of pre-planning. Like, what sort of advice do you have for the production actual?
Make sure you hire a script supervisor. I think for any advice to a director, if you there's a lot of different scales. If this is a bigger production, then it's going to be a no-brainer that you have one. But even on smaller productions, you should absolutely make sure that someone is there doing the work of making sure that there's continuity, that you've shot all the shots that you mean to shot, and getting a professional script supervisor can provide the editor with a line script that is an incredible, important resource, what all the circle takes are and all of those things. So I think sometimes people try to get by without a script supervisor, and I would say please don't do that.
I think really knowing having a really good idea of what you want. As a director, I've met a lot of directors who was like, well, just, put it together. It's like, well, what did you want to do with this? Because I can take this a lot of different ways, so it's like, I'm not going to waste my time, like, doing it this way for you to be like, oh, no, I don't want that. And it's like, well, okay, we can go all this time with what you don't want, but what do you want? So it's just really understanding what you want to do, in the edit, if we're going to, collaborate on it.
And following up on what Kevin's saying, it's the idea that a director should have a point of view, like when you film it, because it gets the editor like one step ahead in terms of just like you get a sense of where this is going to. And sometimes like that point of view is just in the shot structure. You're always going to need some coverage, and we've been talking about this for a couple days. But there's probably some types of like signature shots in it, or just where the camera is placed. And in a worst case, at least there is director's notes or like script supervisors are handling that. But I think like then the editor's not just going in cold. I mean, the editor's still going to know who's the main character. Probably most scenes are going to start and end with the main character. And it's going to be organized around them, but it also helps to understand just like what are some of the themes being told or whatever.
Yeah, I'm going to echo the sentiment, especially because we kind of, it's the same crew that works together, but even on the smallest of scales, script supervisor is absolutely essential. Like, it is absolutely essential, especially in any budget, because I know people wear different hats, especially on like micro budgets, right? But you should have your own dedicated script supervisor. He should not be doing something else, or he or she should not be doing something else. It should just be script supervisor. Yeah.
I do have to say quickly that because I direct and edit Like Ashley and I never had a script supervisor like on the entire last film, and I hate my own self. Because like you get in the editing room and it's like I have no idea
Have no one
what
else
I
to
was
blame.
doing. I don't know what the coverage was. It's a
Which one
huge
did I like?
disaster. So like it's very important to do that. I'm an idiot for not doing
Can you talk about your process too with like sound editing?
Oh, self-taught, which was horrendous. And it was on a project where I bit off more than I could chew in terms of like, in the festival route, you probably shouldn't do like a 23-minute short, but I was like, yeah, it'll work, right? 23 minutes short, and it was a lot of, because I went to film school, but the actual in-depth audio wasn't really taught, so I had to teach myself sound levels, the loudness, all that fun stuff, especially when you're mixing for a film festival. And then sometimes, even if you mix it correctly, if a film festival has a different audio setup, it almost hurts when you're like, okay, I mixed this properly, right, in your own with the monitors, and then you get to a festival and you're like, oh, okay, and it sounds tinny or it sounds incorrect, and no one else is going to notice it, but you will.
Yep.
And you'll sit there and you'll be like, oh my God, they did it, or compression issues, all sorts of different stuff. So, but yeah.
I was lucky to have really good professors. Like I was an undergrad at Wisconsin-Madison, and so Professor Nietzsche Keen, who sadly has passed on, but also Professor Eric Gunnison. Like this was the year 1996, but they had like a fully installed like audio computer editing system. And it was just like one room, is maybe even a little bit experimental for academia at that point. You were still having a reel to tape that you would have to put into it. I'm just very thankful for that sort of education, kind of grounded me in these processes.
I would just add to this a little bit, piggybacking off of what you were saying about the levels and things like that, and a lot of that you can't control. You'll show up at a festival and you won't know if they are going to do it properly, if their thing has been set up right or whatever like that. But the piece of advice that I would say is to communicate early and often with all of your post team members about what the specs should be and what is being expected as far as deliverables, so that if something's going to get a 5.1 mix, you know that, and your sound designer knows that, and you know that it's going to be going up to that. If you're only going to be stereo, or if this is going to be on web and it's only going to be stereo or something like that, that you know those things eventually. Like having a kind of continual chain of communicating specs, even going to if you can, to the production sound person and the cinematographer, just knowing that everything is going to match all along the way. And what people are expecting, because it's terrible to be at the end of a process and realize that something was recorded. This sound person set everything at minus 20 dB, and on a different day you had a different sound person and they set things differently. Or this person had a particular type of mic configuration and that was not used the rest of the time. So anytime you can, if you can have those communications among your post team members to know what the expectations are, what the specs are, and that everybody's on the same page.
I'll actually just say that I actually don't do a lot of sound mixing. Because I've realized I'm just not good at it. Like I just don't have the ear, and I've tried really hard, and it's just something that I lack. So I think knowing what you are and aren't capable of doing, as far as like doing that, to know it's like, well, you might have to go with someone else to like do the mix, because I don't think I'll be able to do this properly. Or if like I'm not good at visual effects. I mean, I did all the visual effects for ours, but it's not necessarily like the thing. I want to focus more on the editing. And so I'll just talk to people and be like, hey, look, I might be able to do this, but it might not be good. So like, go with someone else for the audio, and I'll take care of all the video.
What was the most surprising thing on your last project for you in post-production?
So I think my last project that I actually did was that horror short, Sumpa. And I think what was just surprising is I really took that, and as I said, I rearranged like a lot of that. I even cut a lot of scenes out because I think originally like they had it at like maybe like 15 minutes, and I cut it down to 9. And the director was just really happy with just how smooth and everything like really flowed together. And it was I really worked hard on the sound design to help with the sound designer and where I thought it really needed to go. So I think it was just very surprising to me how I kind of brought something that I didn't think or I didn't know, what was really going to come of it. I just said I'll just do it because I just wanted to edit something, and just how really well it came together with all the obstacles that production had for it.
I'm trying to think of a surprising thing on Mintrix on the post side. Well, one thing that was surprising was, and it shouldn't have been surprising, but was just how long the special effects took. That ended up almost doubling the length of time that the entire production took, because we shot it, we edited it, we had most of the sound mix done. But as to that, and a thing that is good to be aware of, special effects will affect sound. So like if we have a giant fire effect in ours and there's some magic effects, the sound designer needs to see what those effects are going to be, or at least see previs. And even along the way, they were seeing previs of what the fire was going to look like, but it still wasn't exactly how it was going to be in the final. So we held off on sort of that final mix until after, and it took almost a year to do all of the effects that were needed. So just that lengthy process. And when you're working with low budgets and you're working on people doing favors or favor rates and things like that, you kind of have to be, just
Working around their schedule.
working around their schedule, exactly. Those are the things you do.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about that with the special effects?
Yeah.
Was it, did some of it take a while because of the quality you wanted in for the special effects?
Partly, yeah.
It's like you do it and you're like, it's not exactly it, and then you're like, no, we need to try to push
and
this
I was
further.
doing some of it, and we had some artists who were doing some of it. The big fire effect was something that we had someone else do, and they were doing an elaborate simulation, which was very hard to critique. I'll go into my sort of director mode for a second, because we were having those meetings about what it was supposed to look like, and it was a lot of meetings of seeing something that did not look like an explosion yet, and you were like, it needs to hit those people, it needs to spread in this way. I don't know if that's going to be believable or not, and so you're kind of waiting and waiting and waiting to see something close to final before you're finally like, okay, great, it doesn't quite look real yet, we need to fix these various things, and so then you're doing more and more revisions. But it was just a lengthy process.
The crazy thing is that when you're looking at your footage, like if you want more fire, or you're like,
Yeah.
maybe the scene demands to be more epic than you thought you could, you add the more fire and the VFX, suddenly the set audio doesn't sound right.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
Because it's like, now you have this huge fire, you probably expect to hear it, but the actors on set were speaking
Right.
as though they're not
Yes.
raising their voices,
Right.
and then you're stuck either recreating it,
Yeah.
or
Right.
you go into internal sound mode, where it's
Right.
like you're from the character's perspective. So this is where I think, like on the post panel, it's like VFX, editing, sound, all of that kind of goes together.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the prep too, because
prep.
if we had known, like, we could have measured the space too, right, to help the VFX
Yeah,
team.
because of his simulation,
Yeah.
he wanted to know the dimensions of the cave.
Yeah.
To try to make the flames move properly. There were things that we did anticipating,
Yeah.
that we thought would help, that as far as like the lighting,
Practical
that
flickering.
practical light that was supposed to happen in the cave. But even then, you're sort of guessing the more you can have people say similar thing to what I said.
Yeah.
People talk to each other. People have your VFX person know or talk to your DP so that they can do the lights the way they are imagining it.
For me, what's always surprising, and especially on the last project, like I should start by saying I'm the type of nerd who I like the Star Wars prequels more than the original trilogy. Like, I like the surface kind of plastic quality to it. I like the politics of it. I think the story is deeper. It has some really poor elements in it. It has some really poor representational elements in it. But all of that said, like, I appreciate what he was trying to do. And so what's always surprising to me on set is if you are in situations where the actors aren't on set on the same day, that it still will hold together in post, like if it's shot properly. Or that you can get in situations, I remember Lucas talking about this, where he would split apart some of the frames in Attack of the Clones to use a whole different performance for Padme and a whole different performance for Anakin within the same shot, because it timed out
totally
right.
do that.
Yeah, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's
I
like,
have done that, yeah.
you really, back to your like original statement, it's like you really can fix or change a lot of things in post that way if you want to. So we often wouldn't necessarily have actors there at the same time, but yet it more or less hangs together as long as you're thinking about the eye lines. You're taking time as a director to make sure the performance is there and there's like a credible reader. So Ashley would often be the reader in the background to kind of bring the other character to life for an actor to respond to. So we've had pretty good results with that. And my last thing on Attack of the Clones is like, I only found this out, maybe everyone knows this, or maybe everyone hates Attack of the Clones, but like I only
Saw the
found
movie 5 times.
Oh really? Yeah, absolutely. Like so, it's that like the original digital cameras were so loud that they had to throw all the on-set audio of Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman in the garbage.
And
So
low
it's like-
resolution, they're 800
Oh, I
pixels
know.
high.
Oh, I know. And the film looks reasonably good. Like with the colors, you get a little dated, but like this idea that like you're making a romance on screen that's pivotal, and that you have to throw all your dialogue in the garbage from set. Like they had photos of those two actors looking like pretty intimate and romantic together, and yet the final product was you have to send them back to the ADR booth, probably on different days, re-record that. So it's like I even get that the intention in that script was to have them talk in an archaic way, like it's King Arthur's court, and it's a little hokey to a lot of people, but there was a solid artistic intention. But then the execution didn't fully work, I think, and it's partly reconjuring a performance in the ADR booth.
I continue to learn that I know nothing in terms of with some of the other projects. You know, you slave away with the sound mix, with the post and everything, and then with the project that screened at the Horror, we made that for an online, technically online Twitch streamed Halloween celebration for a YouTuber, and so it was like a quick mix, stereo mix, nothing fancy. Right, and technically we toured it here. We're about to tour in Georgia next weekend, and it's doing really well, which then goes to show you that sometimes just a basic editing job, as long as the story is good, you can get away with, you know, you can get away with some basic elements, which, you know, as we normally, either it's 5.1 mixes or whatever, we spend all this money on post. And sometimes you're surprised to learn that, you know, you can technically just a DIY film will do well on a festival circuit. So.
Did you guys have any ADR for your films?
We didn't have any ADR for Streetfall from Space, but for the feature that we have distribution for, we did a lot of ADR for the first section of that movie, because a lot of it was outside.
How did you record it? Did you have the ADR studio?
No, we did it. We did it. My friend's got a mic, and we did it in a closet.
Okay. We had ADR on Mintrix. Mostly it was for
Telepathic?
this telepathic moment. Yeah, Kimberly's like, because I recorded it. It's there's a point where the two characters are communicating in their heads. So we had them kind of record it on their phones originally and kind of play that on set so they could look at each other and kind of react with their eyes to what the lines were supposed to be. But then they recorded it later in a booth. So that was probably the main ADR, I think. I feel like there was a couple of, well, no, I say that. There were things, our sound, we had a very picky person editing our sound, and there were things he picked up, and sometimes he would steal it from other takes, but other times he did want you to go back
Yeah,
in.
wanted very clean.
Wanted very, very clean stuff, so yeah.
We were lucky this time that it was like mostly a studio production, so the audio was clean. But in the past, like I've shot all on location, and that's where like you're sometimes in hurricane weather or whatever. And so like I directed a 1970s style like surrealist revenge thriller called La Medusa Rouge. And so for it, like we did a ton of ADR for this reason. And I thought it was funny because it made it feel more like a Charles Bronson movie from like 1974. And then some festivals were down with that and some weren't. Some will be like, this audio is totally canned. And like another festival will be like, it sounds like a 1970s revenge thriller. So it's like, you know, my lesson was like not to try to get too cute with stuff. I mean, it was by necessity, but it wasn't fully accepted as a mode.
No ADR in this one, but I got spoiled. The first ever project that I worked on, we called some favors and was in, it was, I don't remember the name of the place, but it was in Chicago. It was like a professional ADR setup for just like a student film. And then I quickly realized the cost of that is really, really high. So that was the last time that like we did a booth. We've constructed booths, but I tend to stay away from ADR just because that brings its own set of challenges in terms of performance and whatnot.
Let me open it up to some questions from the audience. If anybody has questions.
I'm a cinematographer, so I mean, now we kind of edit our own stuff, but we've also given it to editors before. And there's always stuff that you fall in love with, or your favorite shot, or your favorite take. So, what is a moment that you were sad to have to leave on the cutting room floor? Whether you just couldn't make it work, or had to cut it because it didn't fit the story, or couldn't fit the time limit or something. But what's something you had to leave on the cutting room floor that you wish you didn't have to?
Well, this is not a good example. I'll say it anyway. We didn't leave a lot on the cutting room floor for this project, but there was a moment that I really wanted to exist, and I had to come to terms with the way we captured it was just not working. And it was a moment where the characters kind of are running through this cave, and you wanted to feel the pursuit of it, and then they go and hide, and just the way that it was captured because of the size of the set and various things like that. The urgency, the speed of the running, it just never quite worked. So it was a moment that I was not sad to lose because I loved it. It was a moment it was sad to lose because I wanted the moment to happen. But yeah.
I'd say it's my job to cut things out, so I kind of don't care in some regards. Like, it's my job. It's like, I'll get into arguments with the directors and just be like, doesn't work. I'm like, does it look like it worked? I mean, I know you spend a lot of time on it and you like it, but like, it's not working. You know, like if we want to try to make it work, let's try to make it work. But as it is now, it's not working, so just cut it. And I mean, I kind of get hate for that, but that's my job, is to just know it's not working, just cut it out.
Yep.
For us, we have a brand new character that's right on the main theme of the movie that appears only in the last 5 minutes of the movie. So my friends at the time, because it's hard, you can show friends a screenplay, but they're not really sure what the tone's going to be or how it's going to play out. So I knew it was like pretty risky to do it because you're not trying to get the audience involved with some new thing in the last 5 minutes, like at all. So we kind of decided to go through it, but it's really overwritten, and that's where like Ashley just steps in like with an axe, and she's like, whatever you're trying to express with all this dialogue, we can cut like 2/3 of these lines. The character will still have this kind of iconic presence. It'll say what the film needs it to say, and then we better just get done with the movie. Just let the audience like see that and then end it. So.
It's been really nice being able to write, direct, and then edit, and being on the editing side, not just for my projects but other projects. He's kind of come to learn that, in terms of cutting, sometimes I've cut entire scenes that I've written that on the page I thought would be, as a writer, right, you put your writer hat on, you're like, this is the most brilliant like scene, and then you shoot it and you're still like, this is gonna work, and then you get to the editing room and you're like, this isn't gonna work, right? And I feel like, with a lot of directors that don't necessarily, I've worked with directors that don't understand post in terms of like the technical things, and they're always the more hesitant, like, no, we can make it work, but as being, like I said, director, editor, it's nice because you don't you're not really attached to anything. You understand that things are going to get cut. Things that you love are going to get cut.
So in lower budget independent film, when a director needs post, right, all of it, what would you, is it okay if the director says, I'm going to hire an editor and they think that means all of post? Or is there something that you would recommend that they say, we need an editor, and then would you say you also need a sound mixer? What can be one person's job at that level, and what would you recommend that they get someone else on top of the editor to do?
I think those are all separate people's jobs.
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes in TV, like you'll have a producer, and the producer is known to be also the director because, and I'm not talking like narrative television, but it's like you might be a producer that's also doing some light screenwriting and casting in the field, and also quasi-directing. And I mean that in a positive way, actually, straight up directing. Like in post, it's like often editors, they're not going to know sound design. And the sound designers, they understand the principles of editing, but maybe not. Then the colorist is a whole nother thing, and the titling is a whole nother thing. So it's like, and we're probably all prone to it as like micro-budget people sometimes. It's like, you'll skimp on the titles, they'll look poor, they won't have like the kerning and things like graphic designers know how to do, or the right font for it, or the font's overwrought. So I just think like, if someone really like advertises themselves as like editing sound designer, those are still like two different jobs. I mean, in the indie world, or micro budget, I should be more specific, it's like it's routine for people to do a bunch of different jobs. So it's like if you have your friends, and your friend you know is going to do the editing and the sound, totally cool. Or if you're directing and editing, your sound's going to do the color and the sound. Because like people have a bunch of different things. But if you're looking to hire, some of those things don't necessarily, in my opinion, don't always overlap unless you know your custom person.
Yeah, to just add on to what Michael's saying, I think it's okay if you are having those conversations very upfront with who you're speaking with. Like if you're doing a micro budget thing and you're speaking with an editor that you're going to bring on, and you're saying, I don't know if I will have the budget for a sound mix. Is it something that you will be comfortable with doing some of the dialogue editing and some simple sound effects for this, and maybe there will be a sound mix later, but you know, that might be it, and just have those expectations be very, very clear. Maybe they will do it, maybe it will affect their rate. You know, to everybody be clear about your rates with your editors, front and with everybody you hire. Yeah, I think they are separate jobs, and you do need those people to, it will turn out so much better if you get different people to do it, but you know, the realities of micro budgets are what they are. If you're getting your friends to do it, and they have those skills, you know, just be clear with them what you're hoping that they're going to be able to do, and let them tell you if they can.
And if you know they're going to hop to multiple people, right, it goes from the edit to all of these different people, is there a recommendation about the format? Like make sure it's all in this type of a file?
Yes.
What translates well?
That is a, you know, post pipeline. Every production needs to build its own post pipeline kind of from scratch. There's conventions, but that's why, to go back to what I was saying earlier, it's very important for everybody to communicate with each other, because you want to know what that post pipeline is going to be. Is somebody going to be needing to access the edit file who works in Avid while someone else is working in Final Cut or something like that? There are ways to bring those things across. You can use XML things to make sure that the edits can go across different platforms, but there's limitations. So knowing what those limitations are is important. You know, for audio, there's a particular kind of package that you will bundle up your audio into to hand it off to your sound mixer. Those are all that, you know, having a post spec sheet and what you want, and getting from the people who you're going to be working with what their expectations are for what they're going to be receiving. That's just it's just a very important part of communication.
Yeah, I think from the mostly just post and not necessarily directing. It's more what you say is I'll ask, you know, when people ask me to direct stuff, I'm like, well, what's your expectation of what I'm doing? You know, I'll be like, are you expecting certain color? Are you expecting sound? Like, are you going to get someone else for that because I don't necessarily do that? Or, you know, how's that going to work? And I've had people back away from asking me stuff, and I'm fine with that because it's like I probably don't want to be on your project if you didn't actually have answers to these.
Right.
And then I'll get people who were just like, well, no, I can pay you this much for this, and if you want to do this, I can pay you this much, but I can go with someone else. And then I'll be like, I don't think I want to do that because I just want to edit, a project because it takes longer, and I'm with a project longer that I don't know if I am or I'm not going to like. So sometimes I won't want to sit with it as much as I might with other projects. So because if I'm doing everything, it's everything, but I can only do one thing at a time usually. So it's better, in my opinion, to for me to be the editor, give it to colorists, give it to the audio people, and they can do all that stuff quicker, and I'll just marry it all together and deliver it.
Thank you.
Can I follow up just with a very quick
Please,
thing?
yeah.
What if is that good? So I think one thing complicating all of this that I know we've all faced is the digital post-production is kind of a circular process on some productions. So it's if you're trying to talk across things, it's it used to be film days, it's at the end of the edit, it would go to color, it would go to sound, it'd come together at the end. But the prequels are a good example of where it's being edited, sound designed at the same time with the sound design, then they'll go back and change the edit. Or they'll come up with something new with a VFX shot and they'll change the edit, change the sound. And it just keeps going that way. But one of the problems with that is, in my humble opinion, it's Ben Bird is an excellent sound designer for Star Wars, but I believe he's a credited editor on Attack of the Clones, maybe even on Revenge of the Sith. And so it helped them go circular, but I didn't feel those films were as tightly edited or edited from point of view as they could have been.
Yeah.
So you have some pros and cons.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you.
I know that a lot of work goes into post-production. It's not just the editing, it's the visual effects, it's sound design, colorizing. But if you're doing one job, maybe just editing, or if you're doing one of those, do you prefer linear or non-linear editing? All of you.
Do we linear edit still?
Yeah, there is no real linear editing
Unless you're live doing a
Yeah.
show,
What does that mean, linear editing?
And what I was thinking is more if you were to work with all of the footage in your library right now,
Yeah.
versus if you were to get specific footage and then start editing and then get more footage
Oh,
later.
interesting.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's probably you're always going to be kind of non-linear editing. It's you're never going to really rarely ever you're going to get footage in order of what it's on the script. You're going to get it in whatever they're shooting for that day based off of the production. And even if I did, there might be scenes where I'm I do not feel like editing that right now, and I'm gonna do something else. I might do 5 easy scenes first, just to start getting in and filling out what the project is, and then try to tackle something harder when I kind of get an idea of what the characters are, or I might try to do something, or I might just string some things out and not even really dig into any of the edits. I just might be okay, let me just see how this is going to look once I, just kind of playing out, and then I kind of dig in and really try to finesse everything.
I feel a lot of times in post, you work so much on the same project and you see the same thing over and over and over again. And your funny moments aren't funny anymore because you've seen them a million times, and your scary moments aren't scary anymore because you know what's coming. How do you keep your vision throughout this? I mean, this doesn't feel the same as it did when I first watched it. How do you trust yourself to keep making editing decisions when you don't feel the same way after watching it a million times over?
It's hard. It's a very crucial thing to try to do, to try to convince yourself you're seeing something for the first time, and you will play something again and again and again, trying to get a cut right, trying to finesse some detail of it, and then you have to sort of erase from your brain. I mean, this is asking the impossible, but I try to do it sometimes. You try to erase that you know anything, and then play it like I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone seeing this for the first time. You try to see it. But what works the best to try to make that happen is to then bring somebody else in next to you, and even hopefully get feedback from them, But oftentimes, even just them being there makes you feel like you're watching it for the first time. And you feel it differently.
For me, it's like I feel like film is musical. So it's like you can listen to the same album, and all of us have. Like there's some album you listen to 100 times. And I think by the time you're done editing film, you've really watched it through 200 times, I'm guessing. So for me, like 2 disastrous things can happen. Like I get excited and I change something in the middle of the film, but I know it doesn't stand until I watch it from the start to see, is it in rhythm, like does it flow? And the other thing is often editing on a small screen, or maybe like a screen like this, and then when you put it big, it's suddenly too slow. Because the audience will always get more information very quickly on screen. Sometimes you're overselling things on a small monitor because like some glance at an actor's eye like is fully selling it, the more subtle version of it, like the bigger that you see it. So I think like for me it's more just like, is the flow right, is it developing emotionally, and then that kind of gets me excited, more the rhythmic aspects of it rather than necessarily like the storytelling.
I cheat. I have a group of people that I essentially made like a focus group, and of various people, not just film people, but like people who, you know, went to go see Barbie, right? Not that I'm throwing shade at Barbie, but like, and then I kind of just test whether it's, you know, it doesn't matter the project, and I test it, and I kind of see different people's reactions, because your film people, right? Your film lovers will pick up different things than like an average person who just watch, you know, go see Fast and Furious, and you just kind of see how it plays out. So, because yeah, you'll start to hate it, and you'll be like, you'll start to hate the footage, even footage that you edited like 2 hours ago. You'll be like, oh no, yeah.
On the feature that I did, I really hated it. And then I saw the big screen, and then we were all like, the director and I, like, let's re-edit this. And then so we went and re-edited it after we've already like, you know, edited it for a couple of years. And we got it down, because it was like maybe an hour 45, we got it down to an hour and a half. And I'm like, you know what, I'm happy with this now. So, you know, like sometimes you come back later, and then you're like, no, let me fix this. I can do this better, and I'll redo it, and that's okay. That's what the film festival circuit's for. You go in and you just like, you know, look at it and be like, nah, let's redo this, you know. And it's just, even when you think everything is done, it's not done necessarily yet. If you have the opportunity to keep doing it,
You can always watch it just one more time.
but know your limit.
Like, I think this is where like a sense of humor comes in, or the absurdity of it, because probably all of us as editors, maybe you've experienced this, it's like, by the time you've seen something 100 times, there's going to be at least 3 lines of dialogue from any movie that are burned in your head. You start saying it at home, like joking about it. And you're just trying to keep yourself like fresh, like so that when you see it again, there's a sense of like just like playfulness, creativity, like looseness, discovery, and then that helps you kind of plow through it.
Kind of piggybacking what you guys were saying, when you have like continuously touched it, and you always can go back, and I know artists always have a problem with letting it go and being done with it, because there's projects we've done that like we still have the DVD tapes from, and we're just like, oh, we could probably go back and do like, we never actually finished that edit, we could probably do that. Like, when do you just like, I cannot look at this again, we're done, I'm not touching it. Like, when do you finally say like, no, stop touching it? Like, it's fine. There's always something else you can tweak or make tighter or change. When are you like, I can't possibly go back to this project again? Like, I have to be done with it. Not that I am done with it, but I have to be done with
I think there's a sense of, you have to kind of learn when you're okay with it. You know, I mean, if it's someone else's deadline, then that you have the deadline. You can't like go away. But if you have the option to, you kind of just have to like, in some ways, just feel it's like, no, I think we're done, and I can move on and do something better next time. And that's just it. It's like there is a next time for you to do something better that you wanted to do with something else that isn't this project. Because if you just stay on it, then you're always in there and you're not moving on. And it's just kind of learning how to move on.
I think what Kevin said is exactly right. Like sometimes there's a deadline, and if it's somebody's deadline, that's it. Other times it's move on to the next one. If something is nagging at you, I would just say this. It's like if there's, to kind of that other point, of re-editing something, if you see something a few times and you're even further along, if it continues to hit you after you've come back, then maybe try to fix that thing. That might be something that you find the way to, but otherwise, you know, at a certain point, time to go to the next thing.
My answer is pretty practical, which is like, if it's like a feature-length story in your micro budget, then it's when your plugins die.
We probably all have done that, because like, there's no support for plugins anymore.
If you're like in a VFX movie, you're probably like doing a bunch of previs on it, and you're locked into a certain operating system. So if you're using Adobe, like sooner or later, the software you bought, Adobe will say, I need to update your machine. You try not to update the machine, but it has to be online so that it dials home to license the stuff. And then sooner or later, there's the click that you do that's too far, and then it just, and then you can't go back to the color, you can't go back to the sound.
Yeah.
It's so irritating because,
Like
like,
discontinues the port.
yeah, it's like in like old film days. Like one advantage of that is there was like a stable workflow for 80 plus years or whatever it was, at least of like the sound era, where it's like it's a flatbed editing machine. You basically have razors. You're cutting it together. You're conforming it. The sound is on magnetic tape, you're down mixing it. So it's like in the digital era, it's like we're on the subscription model, where you can't have like a stable machine that you know will work for 20 years. So we're paying more every year to do this, and it's just the world, the nightmare world we're in. It makes some workflows very difficult, and you're often like a little bit afraid of like, can I shut my computer down when I go on vacation? Or will it do some auto update that I didn't think was coming?
Exactly what I did when I was coming here. Oh, I'm shutting this down.
Yep. It's scary.
You did say there's like there's an innate feeling that you get
Uh-huh.
when it's like it's done. Yeah, I think it's through repetition and through laughs where you start to you recognize that moment. Yeah.
So you talked about the director communicating a really clear point of view. Are there any examples of that? Is it just sitting down and chatting about it? Is it a visual deck? How do you like to be communicated? If they do have a clear point of view, how would it be communicated? And then when in the process, how early in the process do you like to be brought in?
I don't know if I understand that second part of your question, but for the first part, you know, it kind of just depends on the director, because I mean everyone works differently, so it's just good to communicate and maybe see what they want, you know, but then also kind of say, well, I might need that, you know, like I really hate them sitting down and doing every single like take or something. And I'm just like, you can do that in your own time. I'll send you dailies if I have to, and you can watch that. You know, if there's takes you want me to put in there, let me know and I'll put it in there. But you know, it's kind of just figuring out, you know, what they need from you, but then also letting them know what you need from them to try to figure out whatever that dynamic is going to be for that project.
Do you like to do your cut first and then have the director come in and sit, or what is typically your process for?
Do you want them in the room, or do you want them to let you be on your own for a while?
I kind of never want them in the room.
I love to do an editor's assembly, depending on what's going to be allowed in the time frame and et cetera like that. But yeah, don't have them in the room until there's something kind of put together to show them, and then you know, let them have notes from there.
I think I kind of like, from my experience, it's better to not show something that you're really comfortable showing yet,
Right.
because then you kind of get notes on things. It's like, well, I'm not.
Yep.
I haven't finished that. Like,
Yeah.
I thought you would understand that, you know. So it's like, but that's kind of like the rule. Because I work in television too, so it's like you never show anything until it's like you almost need it to be like done, and then you get the notes to
Yep.
keep going.
Yep.
Because the editor's going to rewrite it for the third time, right? It's like the screenwriter writes it, the director's rewriting it in the field,
Yep.
and then it's better often to have like that different person that's just going to take a fresh view of it. So the main thing is just still story, like who's the main character? And I mean, we know who the main character is, but it's like, what are their qualities? How do we see the world through their eyes? How does that affect rhythm? Which shots tend to be used or not used? Who's favored in a scene? And I think that any good editor will know those things. You just sit down and have a conversation over coffee,
Yep.
and then they let them go to work.
Mhm.
I just have a conversation with myself in the mirror, because
You had a question?
Yeah, you guys have mentioned, like the rhythm and pacing we've seen a lot, and like those are specific skills that like, how do you develop those over the course of like learning how to edit?
Practice.
Practice,
Just
yeah.
do it. If you're like, go and shoot yourself if you have to, just so you can practice doing it.
Yep.
Or like I actually started doing it back when you could actually get semi-okay things on Craigslist, and I would just go on there and I would just get projects and work for free, and just do it and do it and do it and do it and do it.
Yeah, you'll develop that critical mind as you do it, and you'll sense it, you'll feel it, but it's a skill you just have to work at and practice.
And I think it's really important, like your film doesn't have to go at 100 miles per hour every moment. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, but part of like pacing and mood is just knowing when to show restraint so that the really heightened moments become genuinely explosive on some level. And so I think, and the other thing is when you're editing, you don't want to have the sound repeat what's already being said in the image, for instance. So like not every, and if it's being said in the costume, you don't need to re-say it in the dialogue, so you can cut on that. So it's like you have all these creative departments, and they don't need to be going full force at every moment. It's like let 2 departments take the lead in this scene, 2 departments in another scene, depending on kind of the needs of the movie.
Actually, if I want to add one more thing, is actually watch a lot of movies too. Like you don't have to necessarily critique them all the way through, but I'll watch, because we do like a movie night every week, so we're always watching either an old movie or a new movie or a foreign movie or something. And when I'm watching it, if I feel something, I'm like, whoa, like what intrigued me about that? And then maybe I'll go and like look at that thing and try to figure that out. But like if you try to over critique movies when you're watching them, you're gonna stop enjoying movies. So enjoy it, but when you feel something, maybe start looking at that.
Yeah.
But also, like following on Kevin, it's like watch movies with the sound off, and not
I do
because
that
sound
sometimes
isn't.
too.
It's like sound. Not that it's not important; it's very important. But like sound off means it's a story being told cinematically. You can actually pay more attention to the cuts if you're not trying to listen to the dialogue.
What about temp music for rhythm?
I actually don't like, if I know there's going to be a composer, I'll actually edit without temp music, because then I try to actually get the pacing and the story without any external stuff to push it, because I feel if you can do that, the music should just be adding and emphasizing those scenes.
Adding onto that, have you guys ever edited a film to a song, like Baby Driver? Or has it been like you're always editing the song to fit the film?
You have to work at a pretty high level to have those music clearances in advance.
That's,
And
yeah.
I'm not sure, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that we're necessarily at that level, right? So it's like, and that's why you never put a specific song in a screenplay.
Right.
It's
I
too
guess I
difficult.
mean like more like if you were to really like a song or someone that you have permission to make a song and that has given you the clearance, would you, I guess, if you haven't already, would you be open to trying that? And what do you think the hardest thing would be in that process?
Very simple, which would be don't cut on the beat. Like don't get too cute with it. Sometimes cut behind the beat.
Yeah.
Make it jazzy rather than just boom, 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 boom. And yeah, we've all probably cut to music before.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the feature, we actually got a music cue that we were able to get from like just a local artist, so she just wanted to have it in there. So like I edited to that one specific song since we had the rights to use it. So I have to get kind of edit somewhat with it, but I didn't necessarily cut on the beat. But it was just moody, so like I get to make the scene be more moody because of the music.
So on a fun note, for the movie The Dreamer that screened today, for temporarily, which is why I don't like using temp music, I did a old Johnny and Santos Sleepwalk song from like the 50s, and then and we really fell in love with it, and we're like, oh, let's look into licensing costs. So we reached out, and then when we got the figure that it was a couple grand, but you only had the rights for about a year,
Yeah.
and that would only be festivals only, and if you had, if you put it on YouTube, that would be an additional cost, and you would have to renew it every year,
Yep.
and yeah, so don't do that.
Unless you really, really need it, it's pretty good.
Or rich.
Yeah.
When dealing with being a director and an editor at the same time, how often on set are you thinking ahead, like thinking as an editor, and like, oh, I know I want to cut here, I know I need this, I know I want that, and how often are you like, okay, screw the edit, like let me just see what happens, and how do they mix in the edit and in post? Like how are you dealing with the left brain and the right brain of like directing and editing?
Well, you kind of said it a little bit, like sometimes in the moment, you're thinking about what the cut is going to be. Oftentimes, if you're storyboarding it or prepping for it, you're kind of imagining how you're intending to edit it. But then when you're on set, you kind of need to see what happens and see what unfolds, and you try to be present for your actors, and you try to be present for that moment, making sure, you know, hopefully you have a script supervisor who's going to tell you, yes, we got the shot you wanted for that, you got the shot you wanted for that. So that you can just be focused on making sure that everything happens. You know, when you're directing, you want what ends up in your frame to be the thing you want, and when you've got it, then you move on. And that's kind of what you need to be focused on. You can be thinking about it a little bit, but at least for me, I do kind of imagine the scenes ahead of time in a little bit of the edit brain. But then I think when I'm on set, I'm kind of contradicting myself a little bit here. I will sometimes say, okay, I have these two options if I need to cut here or cut there. Great, cool, I've given myself an out for this. That might be something I would think about in an editing kind of way when I'm directing. But be present for your actors.
Yeah, I start thinking about it from the moment I either read the script or I write the script. It's kind of weird. You start thinking you start thinking of not only just shots, but of how they're going to start cutting together.
What's absolutely something you cannot fix in post?
I mean, usually, like, if the actor is just, like, bad all around, it's really hard, I mean, especially if they're lead and you have to edit around them, that's
Very hard.
extraordinarily difficult to do.
I mean, you can't fix a daylight exterior that's under clouds and sun
Right.
intermixed. There's no color in the world that's gonna make that better.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Yeah,
Really crappy sound.
really
Yeah.
crappy sound. Yeah, you can try. It's always just going to be a salvage job in those
Yeah.
situations.
Mm.
Like you do what you can to salvage it, but you're not going to get to where you want it to be.
Yeah, bad acting and crappy audio.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basic filmmaking 101, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
So what's next? Where can people find you? Online?
You can, anyone wants to grab one of these, this has the, our movie, and it's, we made a vertical version of it. And you can, watch and see what that looks like if you haven't seen, or if you got to see the short, we had the vertical version. Kind of looking in the vertical world, and it's, more micro budget filmmaking. You can follow me on Instagram.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm StoryPilot on Instagram. Mintrix Film on Instagram is the movie. That's where we will be probably talking about where we're releasing it online pretty soon. So that if you're interested, that would be where to go.
We're Separating Pictures is our company. We're in Philadelphia. Our last two features are on Prime Video with Amazon, so you can look at them there. Our new one, Sisters of the Shattered Moon, is still playing at fests. So maybe it might even take till early next year before it's online.
Yep, Poison Arrow Films, you can follow our progress on, we have a website, we have Instagram, I hear TikTok's pretty popular, but I'm a dinosaur, so TikTok's my thing.
I guess I should say Ulixes Productions, Ulixes Productions. We're on Instagram and we have our website.
Thank you guys so much.